Hi, everybody. Welcome to the DCP season recap. I'm Kyle Durrett, and today we'll be going over our second long game, Monte Carlo, filmed in January and February of 2022. This season features me, as well as fellow production member McKenna Inglis. The season began with the 17 castaways gathering for the marooning. You might see some familiar faces, including myself and Shay from Lalumanu Beach, Victoria and Connor from Exile Island, and Michael from Sahara Dunes. The players were informed that there were no tribes yet, and that they would spend the first few days of the game on one beach.
Tonight, you will not be given a tribe. For now, you are 17 castaways, all stranded together at Monte Carlo. This means you can talk to anyone you wish at this point in the game.
Each player received a note in their supply package inviting them to the High Rollers room on night one. Most players attended. One at a time, they were told to play a game of roulette. If they called it right, they received a clue to an advantage, but if they chose wrong, they received a disadvantage in the first challenge. One of the people who received a clue was Shay. He quickly solved it and got a 50-50 coin. At the first challenge, players found out they were competing for individual immunity. They were split into 3 groups, with each group playing a different challenge, and a certain number of people who lost each challenge would attend tribal council. Names were pulled out of an urn one at a time, and that player got to pick which challenge they played in. Michael, Connor, Micah, and Shay won the endurance challenge, while Victoria, Mike, and Andrew were sent to tribal council. Kylie, Elijah, and Julia won the dexterity challenge, and McKenna, Parker, and myself were sent to tribal council. Jonathan won the mental challenge, sending Will, Margaret, and Nick to tribal council. Heading into the vote, Nick came on strong and tried to get everyone to target McKenna. However, McKenna made good connections, and everyone except Will got on board to blindside Nick instead. Unfortunately, these plans were all for naught, as Shay ended up leaving the game for personal reasons, canceling tribal council.
We got a message from Shay a couple hours ago that due to personal reasons, he had to step away from the game. Shay is a great person, and our thoughts and prayers are with him, and we wish him all the best.
Episode 2 began with the players finally being split into 2 tribes, Ruken and Serpone. The Ruken tribe consisted of Kylie, Connor, Parker, Michael, Andrew, Margaret, Will, and Nick. The Serpone tribe consisted of Mike, myself, Victoria, McKenna, Julia, Micah, Jonathan, and Elijah. A new clue was put into play for an advantage on each tribe. Connor quickly solved it for Ruken and immediately told his tribe. Elijah solved it at Serpone. They each earned a 50-50 coin and went back to the High Rollers room to try and extend the life of their advantage. Connor's spin only extended his coin to Final 12, while Elijah got to pick, and he chose Final 5. For the first tribe immunity challenge, players had to stand with their eyes closed and had to collectively stand for as close to 52 minutes and 13 seconds as possible. However, each player had to stand for at least 1 minute, but no longer than 12. During this, Penelope Rex made her return, as host Ian Moorhead read another story about her.
Penelope Rex was the only T-Rex in her school. Sometimes that made her stand out a little.
In the end, Serpone was the closest to the target time, sending Ruken to the first tribal council. Heading into the vote, Nick and Will wanted to target Margaret due to her performance in the challenge. However, the rest of the tribe didn't agree and wanted to vote for Nick instead. Connor worried that his advantage would put a target on him, so he played his 50-50 coin to Tribal Council and won safety. In the end, Nick was blindsided 6-2, leaving Will on the outs.
Honestly, feel blindsided. I felt like I had a really good, kind of strong set of relationships coming out of like the last vote or the last like non-vote. Felt comfortable with the people I was working with, and honestly, they got me good. It was a really fun experience. I enjoyed playing.
At the next challenge, players competed in a relay race of various tasks. For the first part, 3 players from each tribe transported water from one bowl to another using only a straw. The next stage was for 2 players to make a cup stack with an index card in between. The last stage was for the 2 remaining tribe members to solve a puzzle. Mike struggled to make his cup stack, causing Serpone to lose a lot of time. In the end, it was too much to overcome, and Serpone was sent to their first tribal council. The tribe suspected that Elijah had the advantage, so he quickly became a target. However, Julia was traveling a lot during the game, causing her to be inactive and not socialize enough. She became an easy vote and was voted out unanimously.
Thank you so much for letting me participate. I honestly had so much fun getting to know different people from so many different walks of life. I feel like, I wasn't able to really give the commitment that I wanted to a show like this, but I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm excited to see how this all shakes out.
Episode 4 began with the next immunity challenge, Animal Charades. McKenna and Victoria got hung up trying to guess baboon, which cost Serpone lots of time. They made a decent comeback, but Ruken held on to their lead, sending Serpone back to Tribal Council.
Ruken wins immunity.
I had something to say on the matter. This is a baboon. This thing is why we're going to Tribal Council. Heading into the vote, Elijah was once again a target. However, he told Victoria that he had the advantage, which caused everyone to shift away from him. Micah wanted to target Victoria due to her performance in the challenge, but no one got on board. Instead, a group of Mike, McKenna, Victoria, and myself came up with a plan to vote out Micah. McKenna and Victoria both had a strong bond with Jonathan, and they looped him in on the plan without Mike and I knowing. Right before Tribal, Mike went to Elijah and convinced him he was getting voted out in an attempt to flush the advantage. This plan worked, as Elijah played his 50-50 coin at Tribal. It didn't matter though, as Micah received the majority of the votes.
I felt too comfortable, which you never should be. And I got played. Good for them, but good luck for the next round, because I think they're gonna lose again. So I'm gonna say go red team.
Episode 5 began with the players gathering for the next challenge. But first, it was time for a swap. Parker and Jonathan were both randomly selected as tribe captains, and 2 new tribes of 6 were formed. New Ruken consisted of Jonathan, Michael, Connor, Kylie, Will, and Andrew. New Serpone consisted of Victoria, McKenna, Mike, Margaret, Parker, and me. Elijah was not picked, and his fate was decided later. For the challenge, players had to memorize a card sequence. Each tribe was split into 2 groups of 3, with each member required to memorize certain cards in the sequence. It was a close challenge, but New Ruken pulled it out.
5 of hearts. With that, Ruken wins immunity.
In the High Rollers room, Elijah had the option to choose which tribe he wanted to join, and he chose Serpone. A new clue was put into play, which Connor solved at the New Ruken tribe, earning him another 50-50 coin. At Serpone, Margaret and Parker knew they were on the bottom, but the OG Serpone members didn't trust Elijah. At the vote, Parker voted for Margaret just in case an idol was played. The rest of the tribe voted for Elijah, and he was blindsided.
Talking to everyone, I really liked everyone as a person, and hopefully I can stay in touch with them. And it was absolutely a great experience, and I would love to do it again.
Episode 6 began with another tribe swap, and it was time for the long game staple, the 4x4 relay. Players were randomly assigned into 3 tribes of 4, with the new Poisson tribe being introduced. At the challenge, there were 4 different tasks, with each tribe member required to complete one of them. First tribe to finish won immunity. In the end, the new Ruken tribe of Victoria, McKenna, Margaret, and Will won, sending the other 8 players to a joint tribal council, where they would vote one person out. Jonathan had worked himself into the Ruken tribe during the swap, leaving Mike and I on the bottom. Mike was initially the target, but due to Kylie and Mike having played together before and being good friends outside of the game, she did her best to protect him. She was assisted by Andrew, who saw me as a bigger threat than Mike long term. At Tribal Council, Mike voted for Michael out of loyalty to me, even though he knew the real plan. Jonathan and the Rukens voted for me, and I was voted out in a 6-1 vote.
It was a crazy ride. Had a tough road getting here, and I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. To the people that voted me out, no hard feelings. They got me. Best of luck to everybody.
Episode 7 began with the players gathering for the next challenge, and for the 3rd time in a row, they were told to drop their buffs. But this time, they were merged. Connor came up with the tribe name, and the Fouquet tribe was born. For the first individual immunity challenge, players competed head-to-head in Survivor Trivia. The first round came down between Parker and Jonathan. Parker got the question correct and earned safety at the first merged tribal council.
Parker, congratulations. You have won the first individual immunity.
A new clue was put into play, which Victoria ended up solving, earning her a full-powered immunity idol. The only person she told was Jonathan, and the two of them became a tight duo going forward. Heading into the vote, OG Ruken had the overwhelming majority and wanted to target Victoria. However, people thought Andrew had too much power. The OG Serpone members, with the help of Kylie, worked to get a majority to vote out Andrew. At Tribal Council, Andrew voted for Jonathan, Michael, Margaret, and Parker voted for Victoria, and everyone else voted for Andrew, making him the first member of the jury.
I don't regret anything. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed getting to know people. I think there's more worry I have for how they all perform from here on out, but it is a relief to not, have to be stressed anymore on my nights. But I wouldn't regret anything. This has been a blast. It was fun while it lasted.
At the next challenge, players paired up to compete in a DCP Classic. You guessed it, Jeremy's challenge. The pair of Margaret and Kylie worked steadily, and both earned immunity at the next vote.
And that is it. Margaret and Kylie win immunity.
The players were then informed that Tribal Council was that night, and they only had a few minutes to strategize in breakout rooms. Parker and Margaret wanted to target Will, so Will quickly gathered a majority to vote out Parker. Jonathan and Victoria pulled Michael into a breakout room, and the three of them made a deal to get to the end together. At the vote, Parker and Margaret stuck together, but everyone else voted for Parker, and he became the second member of the jury.
I had my own bucket list. I didn't want to be the first out. Wasn't that. Made the merge, won an individual immunity, made the jury. I even survived a swap screw on top of that. I got to do a one world phase, never done that before. That's something off the bucket list. That's cool. Something I didn't even know I wanted to do. That's all I got. That's all she wrote.
Episode 9 began with the next immunity challenge, in which players had to lift their legs 6 inches off the ground and hold for as long as possible. Mike held on the longest and won his first individual immunity. Margaret knew she was on the bottom and pitched herself as a number if someone wanted to make a move. Unfortunately, no one did, and Margaret became the third member of the jury.
I wish that I realized that once I hit the merge that the best thing to do would have been to look out for me first and not get so caught up in feeling hurt that the people I valued thus far got voted out. I'll be partying in Ponderosa and I can't wait to see how the game is played.
At the next challenge, players competed in a classic gambling game called Liar's Dice. The game mostly came down to luck, and Mike pulled out his second individual immunity. Heading into the vote, McKenna's name came up as an early target. However, the trio of Kylie, Mike, and Will became too big of a threat, so an alliance of McKenna, Jonathan, Victoria, Michael, and Connor came together and pledged to get to the final 5. McKenna knew she was getting votes, so she went to the trio and convinced them to vote for Michael instead. The Final 5 alliance chose Will as their target, and he was voted out 5-3.
I was not expecting to to spend as much time as I did in it. I can speak for my fiance when I say she's going to be the happiest one, more so than any of the 5 people that voted me out tonight to be out of this game.
Episode 11 began with the Next Immunity Challenge, where players competed in 3 stages, with the last stage being a puzzle, and a certain number of people being eliminated each round. At the final stage, Victoria finished first, earning her immunity at travel. With Will gone, Mike and Kylie were clearly on the bottom, with Mike as the primary target. He knew this, and tried to convince everybody that he had several advantages to keep himself safe. Unfortunately, nobody believed any of this, and Mike was voted out 5-2.
I think it was a great move. I think that even if anybody was rooting for me as a viewer, I think it'll be extremely satisfying, even for them to see me go home. I think watching it, I'm going to love how it goes down and me going home and just the smiles on these people's faces. I've harassed them for long enough, and they finally said, let's get this guy out. He doesn't have immunity. Great move. And I just had a great time. I met so many great people. Production killed it. I don't know where you get these people from, but you managed to get 16 people that were either as crazy or crazier than me, which is hard to do, and you knocked it out of the park.
For the next challenge, players competed in Extreme Flip Cup. Victoria dominated the challenge and won her second individual immunity.
Kylie gets her second.
Victoria wins immunity, is the 2022 Extreme Flip Cup champion.
Kylie was clearly on the bottom, and she tried to convince everyone that Michael and McKenna would be the biggest threats in the end. Jonathan acknowledged that McKenna was a threat, but decided to stick with the Final 5 alliance. Ultimately, Kylie was voted out unanimously, and she became the 6th member of the jury.
Basically, I said everything that I could say to all of them. I've talked to everybody a million times, trying to, get them to see the light of day. From my standpoint, Jonathan, Victoria, and Connor, you'll have such a long fucking road ahead of you, and you should have taken a swing at one of the people that's going to beat you in the end. So we'll see if I'm right.
For the next challenge, players had to visit 5 different stations and count the number of objects at each station. Jonathan got all the numbers correct, earning him immunity at Tribal Council. With the Final 5 alliance now forced to turn on themselves, the scrambling began. Victoria had her idol, and Connor had his 50-50 coin, so the vote ultimately came down between Michael and McKenna. Jonathan had loyalty to both of them, but he and Victoria agreed to stay loyal to their Final 3 deal with Michael, and eliminate a strong threat in McKenna. Everybody got on board, and McKenna became the 7th member of the jury.
I stand by my word that I'm happy I worked with the other 4 that are still in the game. I think I surprised myself as well as many other people by even making it this far. I'm happy I played. It was an experience. Feel a little betrayed by Victoria and Jonathan, but to be expected. No hard feelings.
With the final 4 set, the players were ready to compete in their final immunity challenge, which was the old school Survivor Challenge Fallen Comrades. To the jury's surprise, Connor knew them best and won the most important immunity of the season. Connor saw Jonathan as a GOAT and made it clear it would be either Michael or Victoria going home. Ultimately, Jonathan had the final say in who went home. Despite having a close relationship with her, Jonathan knew Victoria would be harder to beat in the end than Michael. He made the difficult choice and voted her out, and Victoria became the final member of the jury.
I'm super grateful for the opportunity to play this game again, and especially thankful for the DCP team for bringing me back. I am definitely a little disappointed with the outcome, but I definitely understand it. And I'm definitely rooting for Jonathan tomorrow, who's been my ally since day one. Hope to see y'all again sometime.
With the jury complete, the finalists were ready to face them. But before they did, they talked about every player in this season in a rites of passage ceremony. At Final Tribal, the finalists faced the jury. Connor's pitch was about how he was always in the majority and how he never received a vote throughout the season.
I do genuinely believe that I played the best game. I won an individual immunity. I found 2 advantages, and I never received a single vote against me, which Jonathan and Michael can't say. And I had a perfect voting record the entire time. As you guys can tell, I'm super freaking nervous, as I always am. But I do believe that I played the best game, and I do believe that I have the answers to back it. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say.
Jonathan's pitch was about how he controlled all the votes and built alliances with everyone to keep himself safe.
Hello, jury members. I don't have much time, so I'll speed through this quickly. You may assume you already know how I got to the final 3, but you may also have an idea as to why you think I got here. But it's by design that you don't. Most of my game has been hidden under the radar and behind the scenes. But don't confuse that with sitting idle and letting things happen. I've been leading the way each vote, finding those who are like-minded and aligned with my boot order list, or utilizing those whose ear I have. Let me pull back the curtain and show you how I am without doubt deserving of your vote.
Michael's pitch was about how he survived each vote by any means necessary, despite having his name written down at several tribal councils.
From there on, basically the whole time my name gets thrown out, Will, Mike, Kylie, McKenna, and Victoria, all 5 of you have written my name down before. So everyone that ever wrote my name down got the kiss of death of me and then left the game.
After a harsh final tribal, the vote came down between Jonathan and Michael. In a 5-3 vote, Jonathan was crowned the winner of Monte Carlo.
The winner of Survivor Monte Carlo, Jonathan.
With Monte Carlo over, next time we'll be taking a look at our 5th mini, Trinity Falls. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates, and subscribe so you don't miss DCP All-Stars coming soon.